Hey everyone, it's Andy from Chronically Healthy Life. Welcome to another episode of Fountain Youth with Andy. Just checking here, playing around some new settings here, seeing I can stream on Instagram. All these new technology is so cool. My green screen's not working properly today. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, it's so funny. So many of us were always saying we need a vacation. And if some of you follow us on Instagram, Min and I, we just took a little short vacay in our favorite place of all places. We love Cancun. We go to Cancun at least once or twice a year. And we love going to the all-inclusive resorts, right? And in all-inclusive resorts, you always think, wow, this is so amazing. Everything is taken care for you. You don't have to think about what to eat. You don't have to think about what to do because there's so many activities to do or not to do, right? They usually have spas, they have beaches, they got pools. They basically, it's almost like an adult wonderland. And of course, Min and I, we love going to the adult all-inclusive, meaning that's 21 and over. Don't I don't want you guys having those dirty minds. It's not that type of resort. Anyways, this is the first time we went to a breathless resort. And here we are thinking that we're going to be getting some R&R. This is going to be a great way to reset our mind, reset our bodies for health and longevity, right? Because after all, I'm a longevity, functional longevity expert. Everything that we should be doing should be extending our life, right? Helping us live longer, helping us uh, relax our minds, to expand our minds, right? And of course, keeping our bodies healthy, right? And, anything that we can do to extend our lifespan, that's what we want to do. We want to not just live longer, but we want to be healthier longer and enjoying life while we're doing it. And like I said, Cancun is one of the places we enjoy the most, especially this time of year. And this year, Breathless, it was sort of interesting. We had a beautiful resort. It was a nice suite. We're always welcome with the Unlimited Vacation Club. So, we always get, beautiful suites in there. The food was good. And, me and Minna, we love our coffees. First place we always hit is the coffee shop. We get her an espresso or espresso, of course, because these are freshly made. And then we just hop on and go to our suite. And the beauty of all inclusive is you hop on the app, you look on the screen, you look on the I guess the itinerary, depending on if you're old school or high tech. There's so many ways to figure out what's going on throughout the day nowadays, right? And we're just gonna chillax. We got there Thursday shortly after lunch, and it was interesting because we're looking, okay, first thing we're looking at is what restaurants there were. There was like a French restaurant, there was a nice Spanish restaurant, there was a Asian inspired restaurant. We couldn't quite figure out if it was Chinese, Japanese, Korean, whatever. Then there was a steakhouse, and of course they got their international buffet, and then they got like these small little pizza, hamburger things right off the beach, and then of course there's bars everywhere, right? If you're a drinker, right, you got the swim on bars. There's two pools. It was such a beautiful resort, and for anyone that loves the partying, check it out. I don't get any money from promoting them, but it was the Breathless Riviera in Cancun. Great resort. We're taken care of there. But the post, like I said today, is I wanted to share for most of us when we think we're going to these resorts. Hold on a sec here. I'm just got a couple of messages. Give me a sec here. I have my partner in crime, Amanda, going to be joining me. Give me a sec here. And she's asking for the link. Give me a sec. I love for her to share her inputs too. Because I know she likes a good vacation. Anyways, I just gave her the link. We'll see if she'll be able to hop on. one of the first things that we notice is everyone's out of the pool, right? There's a live DJ, music's going, right? Everyone's out by the pool. And the first thing we notice is like everyone is they're just slavering on this white substance all over their body. And me and Minna was just looking at them. Oh my God, it's like, I don't know how much they're putting on their body. It's like they are pasty white. Like that's how much suntan lotion these guys are putting on. And it's interesting because a lot of people think that you need suntan lotion to protect you from the sun because the sun gives you cancer. Well, um, not a doctor, first of all, but just sharing my opinion and all the studies that are coming out on the functional side of things, right? From the functional scientists, the functional doctors, from all the biohackers out there. And it's interesting because suntan lotion may prevent sunburn. Well, it'll stop the UV rays from getting into your skin, but you're getting actually more damage from the suntan lotion. And it was interesting because even though we were there for 4 days and the people that are putting on the suntan lotion, and on the fourth day when we left, everyone was sunburned, including all the people that we knew were using a lot of suntan lotion, because you can see all their bikini lines that's burned right into the skin. It's almost like it's been tattooed on there. You got the white lines, not in Europe. So of course you can see the bikini line. But it's just very interesting to me because here you are, people thinking that suntan lotion is actually going to protect them from the sun. But in effect, they got sunburned. And, to be honest, that's usually when you can develop skin cancer, right? Is when your your skin gets damaged from all the burning. So suntan lotion protect you from sun or doesn't protect you from sun. I don't know, right? All I know is I saw people sunburn, but more importantly is these suntan lotions is all these chemicals that they put inside your body. And the chemicals themselves have over time show that they can cause cancer. Hey, Amanda, I'm just sharing a little bit about my trip in Cancun and, how everyone was just slathering on suntan lotion like they were a grease monkey. And, by the fourth day when I left, all those people that had the most suntan lotion are the ones that all got sunburned. And, here me and Min are coming back. We did not use suntan lotion. Of course, we had our patch protocols to help us from getting sun damage. But it's just very interesting in that aspect. A lot of people are still following old science, thinking that for the longest time, you need, when I was growing up, it used to be on the SPF 10 and then 20 and 30. I don't even know what the number goes up to nowadays, maybe 50 or 1,000 or
70.
70. There you go. So, I don't even know because, like I said, we haven't used suntan lotion probably for the last 5 years. But it's just interesting because people are putting it on so thick that, you don't even see what color skin they are. Like it was just all white, it was sort of insane. And then, they're swimming in the pool and I'm just thinking, oh my God, this stuff is just getting into the pool. It's horrible.
Well, and I think that there's so much, I mean, because I'm pasty white, and so I have done this sunscreen for ever and ever. And since I started using the patches, I did not sunscreen this summer. I didn't, I mean,
Exactly.
1 or 2 times like early in the season, and I never did. And I didn't burn. And normally I would be like, yeah, crispy, peely, yeah, years ago. And I didn't. So I think that, yeah, the patches are definitely something to, because I was doing the whole toss up of what's worse, the sunburn or the sunscreen.
Exactly. But like the funny thing is, here they are, the people that were putting in sunscreen, they got sunburned anyway, So not only did they get chemicals in their body, but they still got sunburned, right? So to me, I thought that was crazy because today I just wanted to share how these R&R trips, which you think going in is going to help you relax and extend your life, ends up sabotaging everything. And, just starting off with the suntan lotions. Of course, I had my X39 there. And it was interesting. In Mexico, I thought there'll be someone else wearing these badges. I was the only one. Everyone's just sort of looking at me. What the hell's on it? I don't care about the stairs, right? I had it on my chest, I had it on my back, I had it on my belly button, right? But here I am. I was wearing the X39, which elevates GHK-Cu, a copper peptide, which is known to help you prevent sunburns, right? Once again, it's not the patch that's doing it, it's your body that's doing it, right? When your body gets elevated GHK-Cu, one of the things is you're protected from sunburns. That's just one of the really cool effects, right? But the other thing, Amanda, I don't know if you're guilty for this, because me and Minna, it was really more me than Minna, okay? Because like me and you, we believe in the keto diet, right? We believe in intermittent fasting, trying to eat maybe one and a half, 2 meals a day at most,
Yeah.
right? And in a long fasting window, right? But we're at an all-inclusive resort where you can literally eat 24/7.
And you strap on
And
that feed sack, don't you?
exactly. And I tell you, I felt guilty into this, because I'm thinking, well, we paid for these, for all these things. I want to make sure, I get, my benefits.
Yeah.
And, me and Minna's looking at, what restaurants they have. They have French restaurant, Italian restaurant, Spanish restaurant, a steak restaurant. They had an Asian restaurant, fancy coffee bar, and then like these pizza and hamburger joints on the beach. And I'm saying, look, we're going to try to hit them all, right? I don't know how we're going to do that in 4 days, but we're going to hit them all. And I tell you, that was the most stupid thing I did, because like, we're eating like 4 meals a day, because we get up in the morning at 7 and we hit the buffet, right? And the food there was really good. Don't get me wrong, right? But it was such a shock to the body
Well, but it's,
that, oh my gosh.
and that was it. You had 3, 4 days to do that. You're not doing it every day. And I think that that's where so many people get, it's like, oh, well, and I know I'm horrible about if, when being, I do best strict keto, not dirty,
Yeah.
lazy keto, strict keto.
Yes.
And it's like I go buy one thing, or I go run out with my girlfriend in the afternoon. It's like, oh man, well, I messed up. So I'm totally off the rocker the rest of the day. And it's like, no, but I think that that whole mentality, when we deprive ourselves,
Oh yeah.
instead of going, I'm not doing this every day. We did this one,
Exactly.
hurrah, it's okay. We're back on track, and looking at why you're doing it.
So true. So true. When we're there, we weren't thinking about why we're doing anything. I just said, I'm just going to enjoy myself. The only thing we did do, to be honest, is we tried to stay a little more keto. I was trying to stay away from the white breads, the pasta. I am guilty of eating one piece of pizza. I just had to see how it tasted.
Well, sometimes, it's kind of like eating candy corn. You got to do it once a year to remind yourself why you don't do it.
Exactly. But we were guilty. Me, I always talk about how Mina loves coffee, right? And of course, over there, they have like a coffee bar, and it's all free, right? It's all included. And then we love our affogatos. So
Oh.
we're having like 2 or 3 affogatos, a day, like basically ice cream in the coffee. And I tell you, I don't think we ever had that much ice cream before. So it's like these little indulgences, right? And it's like the more I'm walking around, we're enjoying the music, and you already feel the body complaining a little bit, right? You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's the things that you avoid in those foods.
Mhm.
By being keto, you're avoiding the grains,
Yes.
and you're avoiding the cane sugar. The
Exactly.
sugar more than anything. And I know we went off the rails for a bit, and it caught up with me. It's like, whoa, I am hurting.
Oh yeah.
It's like
It is so
every
insane.
joint aches, every muscle tissue, every muscle fiber, you can feel it moving. It's like, yeah, no, 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 no.
I love what you said, because it's like a lot of people don't realize. I tell people, when certain parts of your body hurt or ache, those are the areas that are damaged from previous before. So usually when you're doing well, those areas don't hurt. But
Right.
those are almost like your your early warning signs, or or like when you're getting attacked, right? Your shields are going off. Those are the areas that's hurting. It's like I'm walking around, my knees are starting to hurt, my ankles are starting to hurt. I was like, oh my God, here comes early inflammation, right? And of course I shared a picture on there. It's like we're in Mexico, and everyone's asking, what drink would you like, right? Because they got the swim up bar and everything. Minnow is really good because she doesn't drink. And even in these conditions, she never drinks. So she's always having a sparkling water, right? With some lime. And I was like, what the hell, man? I'm going to live a little. I'm happy. So give me a mojito. I think a mojito will look good in a picture. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm handing here, hanging out in the sun with my mojito. And, I think one of the good things that I noticed is because since all this is inclusive, they are a little bit watered down, luckily,
Oh, yeah.
right? So they weren't that strong, but even then, I can feel it because it's like, I had one mojito, but I probably had 3 or 4 margaritas and a daiquiri in the 4 days, and then I had some red wine for my steak dinner because you have that red wine if you're eating steak, right? So here, I probably drank more in 4 days than I did in the last 4 years because I don't normally drink wine, even these all-inclusive resorts. But because this one just had a more of a party vibe, they had live DJs going. It's like, I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that too, if you look at what you were drinking, now had you had just the shots of tequila, that wouldn't have been as bad as, because they're making them with a mix, and that mix is just
That is
all
so
the sugar
true.
and the
That is
high
so
fructose
true.
corn syrup. So had you just had the alcohol, um,
Oh.
versus again looking at what it is, but you don't do it every day, and you got that good reminder of why you don't do it every day.
Exactly, exactly. Because everyone knows I'm a biohacker, so I have my Aura ring and I got my Apple Watch, and I know some people says, "Oh, I don't wear these things because of the Bluetooth and it disrupts your EMF." I think, which is true. I totally believe that. So to each their own, but it doesn't really seem to bother me too much. I love having them to track, and I tell you, my readiness score, my sleep score, it was just total shit. Like for 4 days, right? And just tells you, like, you feel it, and then I have the data backing it up. I was like, oh my God, I swear, I think these 4 days probably shortened my life 30, 40 days in the long term. It's like, right. So it's like me and Mina now is like we're back and we're trying to do, some restorative protocols, right? So, but it was just interesting because you got all the loud music. They actually had a live nightclub there that goes from 9 o'clock to 1 a.m. every day that plays 80s and 90s music. Right. This is on top of, like, Latin dancing and fire shows that were showing on Facebook. It was crazy. Like I think if I went with a bunch of friends, it might have been more fun because we would have got really shit faced and drunk. Right.
Would
But
have been
it, it,
completely
it was
miserable.
it was an interesting thing because me and Minna was wearing these other lenses. I was like, were we like that at a younger age? And the funny thing is, there were much people, I'm sure, were older than us that just let their little kid go. So, in that essence, I thought it was sort of good. People are like reliving the youth a little bit. But yeah, some of these people, they don't move as good as they think they are. I'm sure they're just drunk. In their mind, they're probably moving
That's me.
very
I
well.
don't think I've ever moved as good as I thought I did.
Oh my gosh, but it was just a very interesting trip, by the third night because they have live music blaring out till 12 a.m. every night.
So that, that goes into the whole imagine living there.
Exactly.
So we're talking about we talked about so many like chemical pollutants
Hmm.
and airborne pollutants.
Yes.
Well, now you're talking about light and sound
Yeah. Light and noise
sound
pollution.
pollution.
Yes. Yes.
I know in our community here we got a bunch our we have new sidewalks around our community square, and the lighting is new,
Hmm.
but they had to put so many more light posts. I think there were like 3 more light posts per side of the square because the light pollution is down, and so you
Mhm.
had to have them more frequently
Correct,
in
correct.
order to have less light pollution. And I like the looks of it. And the center of our courtyard where the courthouse is, that's county property. The
Correct,
county
correct.
didn't replace their street lights, but the city did. So we have
Yes.
these duller lights on the storefront sidewalks, but in the county center, it's the bright light. And it's like, ooh, those were really a lot of pollution. So
But it was fun. But by the second night, Min already said, "We're gonna need a vacation from this vacation." You know.
yeah, I think that's why my partner goes back to work is to get he goes back to work to rest up so that we can do all the things that we do on the
Exactly.
weekends, getting the lawn ready and the camper and, the seasonal stuff and all
It's
the
so
honeydew
true.
list.
But there is something beautiful about the beach with the natural,
Mm,
the air, the water, and everything. I think more people need to do this, right? Because even though the people stayed up late, we heard people still by the elevators and everything laughing and whatever they're doing by 1, 2 a.m. But the beauty of it is me and Minna, we get up early. We get up at 6, 7 a.m. Right. And there's no light pollution. We went out looking at the sunrise. Seriously, like the whole resort was booked. Like we had two resorts back to back, and they were completely booked. And at 6 a.m., I think I counted there was a total of 10 of us on the beach. Like I don't know, it's almost like the land of the dead. It was so quiet, right? And people don't start coming out until like 9 o'clock. You see the red eyes and they're trundling into the buffet. But first thing in the morning, oh my gosh, we're at the beach, waiting for the sunset. Just looking at nature, it's so fascinating. Look at these birds diving, dive
yeah.
bombing to water and it's like we're just lying here. I was like, wow, this is such an amazing life. Like that is sort of what we were looking forward to because when we were at the other resorts before, there was a little bit more quiet times where we can enjoy that. But we weren't able to do that really until the last day because every day we got up for breakfast, had to get our money's worth, right? So the last day we didn't do that, right? You
I
know?
remember going on an all-inclusive cruise and I was like, you feel obligated to
Yeah,
eat
exactly.
continuously. And this,
Yeah,
gosh, that was back in the 90s when I went on that cruise. And even to go to a buffet, if it's an all
yes,
you can eat buffet, I feel like I'm cheating that buffet if I don't make a few trips through.
exactly. At least try everyone for if
Try,
something for
try
every
everything.
station, right?
But I've learned to pace myself. I don't put side borders on my first plate. It's just a moderate plate. That way I don't feel horror. I feel like I get to go back and make a couple of trips to the buffet, but I don't feel overwhelmed by the amount of food by,
That is so true.
stacking it up. It's not how much I can get on the plate,
Yeah.
but let's make it reasonable. So,
Exactly, exactly. But
but
it
there
just
is
that
that mindset.
I think I just wanted to let people know a lot of these resorts. You're thinking that it's rest R&R, and it really isn't. It is really stressing out your body. It's stressing out your brain. It's getting everything excited. It's sort of crazy. I don't think it actually extends your life. I really think it shortens it.
Well, and see, that's where I would question, is it because we need more of those
Yeah.
trips so that we aren't rushed into, hurry up and get everything done so we can leave, so we can hurry up and get back, if it's kind of like the year-round schools
Mhm.
where the kids go to school for 3 months and they get 3 weeks off and 3 months and 3 weeks off. So they do it more frequently. So if we went and we did more R&R more frequently, would it be less stressful because it wouldn't be as the novelty wouldn't be there. We wouldn't feel so compelled to
True.
gorge ourselves if we did this more frequently, if we rewarded ourselves with that rest period.
It's funny that you say that
I
because
would
we
let I
went
would
to
I would let you budget that for me. I'll try it out.
it's funny you said that because I know you gone to Panama like last year, and me and Minna
Uh-huh.
went to Panama Canal, I think 2 months ago, right? And another of these all-inclusive resorts. same chain. But the funny thing is, like, this one was so out of the way. The people were sort of older. It was like me and myself, man, this place is hella boring, right? Like, there's nothing going on, right? So you get what you wish for, right? You attract what you get, right? Because this one was just too insane. It's like I think if I was younger, I'll probably enjoy more of seeing everyone in their bathing suits. It's like I couldn't be bothered. I just wanted to find a space where me and Mina can actually lie back and relax, and because like there were just no places to sit. It was so busy. So that's
Oh,
why we decided to get up first thing in the morning, and then it was amazing. We got the whole pool to ourselves, right? You just had to figure out the time where everyone is still sleeping. I guess, well, what's the word? Having was it overhang? Being drunk? What's that
oh,
term? I haven't
hungover,
been
hungover.
hungover.
Yeah.
I haven't had that for many years. I don't even remember what to call it.
Uh,
But
I don't
it,
get
it
those. I don't
mm,
get those. I've been blessed or cursed. I don't know which it is.
I think the only reason I got them back in the day is I did so many stupid things in those college years and into my 20s with all the, with the shooters and like the shots and the beer, and you just don't mix it. That's what I
And the
heard. If you
trash
don't mix it,
can
you're fine.
parties,
Yeah.
toga
Well, no, I never
parties.
did any frat parties. It was always someone's birthday party or something stupid, right? You just do stupid things, and back in the day, you think the more you can drink, the more cool you are. Well,
Oh,
I totally
absolutely.
destroyed my liver all those years.
That's why we are so thankful the liver regenerates.
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny. It's like, me and Amanda, we're back, and we're using our patching protocol to help restore. I got my glutathione on, I got my energy patches on, for people that want to learn more about these things, the LifeWave products. You use it on acupuncture points, and these two are the kidney points. I'm giving my kidneys a little bit of love. I have an Eon by my foot, on the kidney 3. On the liver 3, trying to, keep my liver regenerating after that toxic shock from all that. And it is, of course, we have the X39 and glutathione. But one of the things that was really interesting to see is, everyone knows what my thoughts are on COVID. I'm not even going to talk about COVID too much. But, there were like there were a lot of guests, but there's only 2 guests that were still wearing a mask.
Uh,
It's insane. And of course I'm not going to judge anyone, but they're wearing a mask, right? And they're on the mask, wearing at the beach, and I was like, why do you even come to enjoy yourself? And then when they're eating, they have the mask on, they eat, and then it's like, and the funny thing is, these are the people that's having the chronic, that chronic cough when something's going on,
mhm.
right? It's not that you got a scratchy throat or something. It's like seriously sound like that you're gonna cough a lung out. And you right away, you're looking, and I'm looking, and I was, I bet you it's those people, right? And my thing is, I'm not trying to be judgmental on these people wearing masks. I think that the biggest issue is they're still following information on who's telling them what they should be doing for the health, right?
Mhm.
And this is where I just want to leeway a little bit to plug in what we do, like for the Chronic Health Collective. But what both me and you do is, we're really passionate about sharing ways to not just boost your body's health, but your mental, your brain health, your immune system, your
Mhm.
liver health, your kidney health, and we do it in so many different ways. But the only problem is most of the things we talk about, the holistic ways, you don't see it anywhere, right? You just really
No,
don't,
no, no.
right?
Well,
And
because you can't make money off of healthy people.
exactly,
And it's and I hate to come back to it, but it is clearly follow the money.
yeah,
Follow
right,
the money, and that's where and I had someone say to me today, we were having a conversation about health and wellness and everything, and they said, "Well, if prescriptions are making you well, why are you getting them refilled?"
Exactly. It should only
Okay.
be, what one
Genius.
treatment, right? Like back in the day, how they say antibiotics, which sort of makes sense before I know what I know now. Okay. But I remember back in days, well, if you got your antibiotics, you need to finish it. And in theory, if you finish what they give you, it should wipe out the infection. Right. But, my point is, I'm not saying antibiotics are good. I'm totally against them now. But, you know, that is a one-time thing. You don't need to keep refilling your antibiotic.
Right.
That's how all medication should be if they are actually healing you, right?
Right. Well, and that's where taking things to healing it. And if we look at what everything is doing, they're identifying the symptoms and then suppressing the symptoms instead of going,
Exactly.
oh, your blood pressure's elevated. Why is your blood pressure? What's causing it to do that?
Correct.
It's not just that you're stressed or just that you're fat or that, there are other things going on, and we need to look at the whole system.
Mhm.
We need to treat the whole human being, not just the
Exactly.
blood pressure numbers. And then I
Exactly.
was the same person was saying a formulary about the expectation of your blood pressure. It is acceptable for it to go up as you get older. It's going
Oh,
to,
for sure.
and that makes sense, and I don't know why it never struck me before she was saying it today, but
Yeah.
that, what is your blood pressure? What do those numbers mean?
Hmm.
That top number is higher, that is the pressure against your vessels when your heart is pushing out.
Hmm.
That's the maximum pressure. And then the lower number is the pressure against your vessels when they're at rest.
Correct.
And so that's why when that lower number is high, we get worried because your vessels aren't getting a rest. And it's not
Correct. Correct.
necessarily just the numbers, but it's the relationship between them. How much give do you have in your vessels with that
Correct.
with that number? And so when you understand what you're looking at, and so it would make sense that as you get older, there's a less elasticity, so those numbers would be a little higher.
Yep. Yeah, and it makes sense. It makes sense. And one of the things you said about blood pressure, I think, is very relevant that people don't understand, is it does fluctuate. It fluctuates throughout the day. It fluctuates when you're eating because blood's going to your stomach to digest food. It fluctuates when you exercise. And this is the thing that doctors never tell you. And, the whole white coat syndrome is like it always goes up when you see the doctor.
So white coat syndrome and then pain. When you're
Yes,
in pain, it goes up. So you take somebody who has white coat syndrome, and then they only go because they have white coat syndrome. They don't go to the doctor unless they're in pain. So you have white coat syndrome and pain,
yes,
and you put them on 2 blood pressure medications. Did you ever ask them what their blood pressure was at home?
exactly.
It's like, you can't. No. No, 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 and I'm not saying to trust the blood pressure machine at the box store,
Yep.
and just like when you're checking your weight, you need to check it on the same scale at the same
Hmm.
time every day.
Exactly. So you have
And,
the
your
trend,
blood
right?
pressure cuff, Andy, is gonna be different than my blood
Yep.
pressure cuff, than the one at the box store or your doctor's office, and those electronic ones. Hello?
Yes.
Quit. Use
But
them
that
correctly.
that is so true. And that was true of my dear mother-in-law. She's passed away a few years now. But like she had total white coat syndrome,
Mm.
right? Like it always went up at the doctor. It was always low at home. But the problem is because it was up at the doctor, they gave her blood pressure medication. And then for the longest time, we couldn't figure out why she kept fainting. She kept fainting because the damn blood pressure medication was dropping her blood pressure too low. Like her low number was like dropping so low that she was fainting all the time. And then finally, I don't think it was a good idea. She totally went cold turkey on Western medication, right? She said, I'm not taking any drugs, and she was on quite a few, right? So, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I would never tell people to just go cold turkey on something. You should always work with your doctor. But at least, when she stopped taking the blood pressure medication, she didn't have those fainting spells anymore. And then, of course, when she's measuring her blood pressure at home, it was always normal. It was always a little bit higher. Like you said, she was a little older. She was already, in her 70s and 80s, and her blood pressure is like 140 something, 150, which I think it's okay for that age. Like she wasn't overweight, she had no problems walking upstairs, right? So it's just interesting. And
Well,
it
and then
frustrates me when you talk about numbers like that, because they just recently lowered again what healthy blood pressure should be, and no one meets that, right? Unless you're a young kid that is not overweight, you may meet that, but no one in the world is going to meet the new requirements to be under 120 and under 80.
no, 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 not without the
Medication.
golden dollars going to big pharma. But that whole medical care. So my stepmother was a snowbird.
Mhm.
They lived in Ohio and they would go to Florida for the winters. And she somewhere in there had the carotid arteries
Mhm.
had enough occlusion that they were taken care of.
Right.
Well, the doctors didn't all catch up with her as to who was doing what. And
Mhm.
she would get out of her car and collapse in the parking lot. She'd be walking through the grocery store, collapse in the grocery
Oh
store.
my gosh.
Someone finally figured it out. They
Yeah.
had taken and cleaned out her carotid arteries, so they
Mhm.
reduced that resistance,
Yep.
but they never took away her blood pressure medicine.
Oh my
So
gosh.
she was just bottoming out all the
Yeah.
time. It was crazy. It was crazy, and it took them so long to figure this out. And like,
Yeah. And
okay,
to be honest, it should be a no-brainer. They should know better.
you should. You should.
You know what I'm saying? Once again, I'm not a doctor, but if they're checking your blood pressure and they know what it does and they know what normal is, they should at least told her to monitor at home. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm
Yeah.
always telling people, like, monitor your own numbers. Is like, you should know your own numbers. You should not rely on your doctors to tell you what your numbers are. That to me is just insane.
Well, and I think that that's kind of, we've gotten insurance companies are requiring people to get well visits where you just go
Mhm.
in just because you're feeling great and we need to document it. But
Yes.
having those baseline labs, those
Yes.
baseline things when you're not in crisis, when you're not in trouble, when you're not sick,
Mhm.
to know what your normal is.
Correct.
I mean, there's some criteria there, but as to what should be normal, but then you've got that baseline. You just need to
I
have them,
agree. I agree.
you
I'm
know?
I'm I'm a big person about getting your blood labs, but unfortunately, like you said, people don't usually go get tested until something's wrong, and then now that blood, that test is a snapshot, and now they're freaking out. It's like, well, here's when the doctors start giving you all the medication, but that's
Well, and
because
then
you are elevated. Are going in sick, and you're getting all these tests, and it's like you don't have something, you don't have a report card to show what your normal is. So it's so true. It is so
and
important to have your blood test done in certain,
right, and
different
then just
times.
getting your insurance to pay for it. It's like, well,
Yeah,
we aren't going to pay for your labs because you're not sick.
because you're not
But yet
sick.
you want me to have a
Exactly.
wellness to prove how well I am.
Yeah.
It's just that I think that we just need to get back to, if well, yeah, the whole medical system and how it's billed. And well, if you have insurance, it's $5,000. If you don't have insurance, it's $750. So you have
Yes.
insurance, you haven't met your deductible, so you're going to pay the 5,000, not the 750. And it's just
Exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
understand.
Now, like even for my blood test, I do it independently on my own pocket. I pay like $500 a year. I get everything tested. If I got my doctor to do it, that would have cost me like $3,000,
Yes.
right? Because insurance isn't going to cover it, right?
No.
But meanwhile, I know exactly what goes on, and then I do a follow-up test 6 months later to see where everything's going. Because otherwise, is that you do the test once, great, your numbers look great, but you're not frozen in time. You eat, you exercise, you sleep, you do stupid shit, you do good shit, right? So that number could be getting better or much worse. You can't just say, so, well, my number was this 10 months ago. Right? So I think that's where people don't understand is like, and people say, Andy, you spend $500 for your own test. I'm saying, well, $500 for me is better than 50 to 100 to $200,000 later when you have hospital bills and you are lying in bed and they can't fix you because they don't know what the hell is going on.
Right.
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 So, for me, it's always telling people you need to invest in your own health. No one can take care of you better than you. Right. I think that's really important. And, I'm just touching just a very small portion of what it thinks, to live a chronically healthy life, right? Just talking about blood markers, but like I said, the health of your mind, the health of your energy, everything, right? And that's what I really want to talk about a little bit today, because I know, we got our Chronic Health Collective second season coming up. That just started, and we got some new faces. We got some OGs like Amanda, but this year we are launching something that I'm very excited about, and I'm going to be calling it the Longevity Blueprint Club, right? And this is something that all the Chronic Health Collective members, the coaches, we're all going to be part of this, and we're going to be giving you tips. We're going to be giving you master classes each week, and then each of us will be giving you tips and tricks on all these things that you're not going to see in mainstream media, in the news and stuff like that, right? And the beauty of this, I think the real beauty of this is we live what we do, right? You know, saying, because there's a lot of people that'll give you advice, but they don't actually do it, right? And I was thinking, well, what's the point? Now you're just repeating something that an influencer said, which they're not even doing. They say, oh, they can say I'm vegan, and next, they're eating a steak in the back room. It's like, you have to do what we say you do. And the beauty of it is we're going to have the collective. We're going to have people that specialists in, relationships, specialists in energy healing, trauma, reverse aging, productivity. We got, we got your energy healing, your homeopathic tips that I think a lot of people can really benefit on, because we talk about that, because homeopathy is so much more natural and so much more affordable than Western medication, right? And I tell you, it works, and it works really well and really fast, right? Because I remember I was telling you I was having these dang mosquito problems here in Texas every time it rains, and I'm a mosquito magnet, and I was taking Benadryl because that's the only way for me to prevent me from swelling up, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking like the 500 milligrams, sometimes I'm doubling it up. And I'm thinking, well, it doesn't seem to be having too much effect on me. At least I thought. But it was definitely making me drowsy. Like, it was giving me, more fatigue, and, and I was drinking more coffee. But I didn't think about it, right? It just, I knew the side effect, but, we always don't believe it yourself when it's happening, right? I think that's the worst thing.
Well, and so many things we do out of habit.
Yes.
We do out of habit. And I, as a homeopath with a cupboard full of homeopathic remedies, when I finally pay attention to myself enough to, address the pain or whatever, it's like, oh, it's so much easier to go to the other medicine cabinet and
Yes.
pull out a single pill as versus taking the homeopathics. And so
Yeah.
it takes a mind shift,
It
you know.
does. It does. And like I said, I love the things that you share on the, homeopathy. Of course, we got our protocols of Life Wave that helps with
Mhm.
symptoms too. And they work really well. It is something that, it's been in the works for a little while. I'm hoping that we have the Longevity Blueprint Club launch right around Thanksgiving. So it'll be our Thanksgiving gift to all our viewers and all our clients out there. And the beauty of it, it's going to be a community also, right? So you can be basically asking any of the coaches anything uh, once a week, because that's something that all coaches is going to offer, right? So no questions are off limits. Just set a time with which hour they are available that week, and you can ask them anything. It's not going to be like one of these console where we're guiding you. No, you just ask whatever question you have, and we'll have an
Feel
analyst
like a
for you.
radio call-in show for virtual
Exactly.
coaches. I mean, seriously, because when you have a burning question, you want to ask someone specific. Usually,
Yes.
when people call us for a discovery call, it's because they really
Hmm.
want a lengthy thing. And sometimes, a single question you might not think is worthy of scheduling that 20-30 minute discovery
Yes.
call, because you really just want to ask one question.
Yes.
You don't want my whole philosophy on everything. You just want to ask me a single question. And so that's what this call-in time is
Yes.
going to afford you. Is it can be a one-off question. No, yeah, you don't need to know the whole theory and everything about everything. You can just ask
Exactly.
one question and then the questions that go from there as well. But yeah, just make, as coaches to be available to do that, because I think that a lot of people do have questions, but they don't know that they're going to fill that 20-30 minutes of time.
Exactly. Exactly. And I really believe it's tough because a lot of people think, well, if we're doing a discovery call, I'm not going to get you to answer my question, right? So this is a way for everyone to get to know us a little bit better. And of course, once you get to know us better, if you want to work with us more on a one-to-one basis or whatever, then great. We would love to schedule a discovery call to see, if we can dive a little deeper, right? But this is a great way for you to get to know us better, what our specialties are. And that burning question, like Amanda says, that no one has answered for you. Maybe one of us can answer that for you. And we're straight shooters. We're gonna give it to you as is. Like there's no sugarcoating in what we say. You've seen enough of me and Amanda's lies. Like we don't sugarcoat anything.
No, no, we're not gonna. And the panel that we have this year is really very much into being that same, just being available and
Mhm.
answering and really engaging with everybody. We've just kind of the panel's done a little bit of shift. Not that people last year didn't, but this year I think this is a great panel to do this with.
Yes. Exactly. Intuitively, I think everything worked out. And I think this is a year a lot of people, are tapping into the gut feeling, now that I'm with you all a little bit more, Amanda, and your energy, you know, to me, I always called it my gut feeling. I never actually said intuitively I was thinking in that way. Right. And I think a lot of people are tapping into their gut feeling that, there's something that they need to do differently. Right.
Right.
So, what we're inviting is we're inviting you all to check it out. We're going to be promoting it soon. This is just a little teaser of what's coming out, right?
Oh,
But
but
we're
we've got
hoping to launch it by
yeah,
Thanksgiving.
and there's so much more. It's not just the coaches being available every week. We're gonna have, like, what are we calling them? Are they corners,
Yeah,
nooks,
we're gonna be calling
boards?
corners. Yeah, sort of
Okay,
like longevity corners, right? Like basically, we're gonna have tips and tricks that each of us is gonna give you bite-sized pieces. These are not going to be long, long sessions. It'll be like 3 to 5 minute lessons, right? That's going to be peppered in each of these corners and longevity and mindset and relationship. We can give you some cool recipes, right? Maybe some ways to just chill out because I think we are so stressed nowadays. We don't know how to chill out, right? So in
right.
some ways just to help us get back into that rest and digest mode, that sleep mode. There's going to be so many tips and so many ways to handle things, and that's why I think this is going to be a great outlet for people to tap into, where you're not going to see being shared on mainstream media. You're not going to be seeing this shared on other platforms because they want to charge you for it, like a lot of money for it, right? The beauty of it is we're going to be charging, the price. I'm going to talk about the price now. We're just going to be charging $37 a month, right? And we're just talking about the tip of the iceberg of what we're offering. There's going to be so much value in this because each of the coaches will be delivering a masterclass, a 1 hour masterclass each week where there will be Q&A, right? So where you right after the class, you can be asking your questions. And then of course you can follow up with the 1 hour, ask whatever, or maybe you want to follow up and work with them, right? There are so many ways that we want to help people because my biggest goal is to help a million people around the world. And I know I can't do it myself, right? But with the collective's power and with all our audience and viewers out there, we would love for you. We invite you into this, into this club, the Longevity Blueprint Club. And this is going to be a great way for you to start learning. Oh, that's why people do that. You might see people doing it, but you don't understand why, right?
Right.
We will get into the science. We will get into the woo. We'll get into whichever way you need to to understand the nuances, how it all works to live a long, happy, and chronically healthy life. Right. So, but anyways, that's just a little sneak peek. I'm running out of time here. I have another, another lesson with someone right after this. But people, when you're going out there and gaining some R&R, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Like Amanda is like, do you actually need the R&R? Sometimes you need some R&R at home. I'm actually more rested when I'm at home than when I was there, right? But it was fun. It was fun. I think we all need, and if you are going to do some R&R, make sure you're going out there with fresh air,
Yeah.
because like there's nothing beats it, right? Ocean air, ocean water. There's something about walking through the salt water in the ocean. There's so many supposed to be healing, restorative powers. I'm not going to go into the woo. Some people's going to call me nuts, but I tell you, it's not the same as swimming in the swimming pool. And even just walking in the water, you
Yeah.
feel different. Walking on the beach barefoot, oh my gosh, and the wind in your face, blowing your hair. It's the most amazing feeling. But, once again, thank you again for joining us on the Fountain Youth with Andy and Amanda. Thank you for joining me, and Amanda, you're always so supportive for me, and we have such a common vision to help so many people around the world. So please reach out to us, through comments, through, we got our contact information up under there, through our website. I can be reached at chronicallyhealthylife.com or longevityofandy.com to get a free 3-minute consult. We got Amanda there at amandabethhealing.com. And I think /Linktree to have all your contact information.
Yeah, that'll give you that way you don't have to wade through the website. Yeah.
Right. And of course, if you want to find out more about the, LifeWave, it's like I got so many on right now. I got the glutathione, I got the X39, I got the X49. Oh, by the way, this is one that we always travel for on the plane because it blocks EMF radiation. That's why I'm not worried about wearing my Apple Watch and Oura Ring because I'm protected. But anyways, if people want to learn a little bit more about how the LifeWave products, reach out to both me and Amanda. These are protocols that we love to use, and I think that everyone should be on them. And LifeWave just recently got award for an award in stem cell technology innovation, which is very exciting, right? So people are recognizing LifeWave worldwide for what we are doing to advance stem cell research.
Right.
All right, thank you, and we will see everyone next week.
We'll see you.